So let's talk about Sadiq Khan's latest initiative. Is if you see one of your friends, Nick,
Yep.
saying something misogynist, I am apparently obliged to say mate.
Right. That's bound to stop me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's bound to make you stop doing it, isn't it? So it's not going to piss everyone off. So yeah, that's Sadiq Khan's guilty conscience leaping out of his mouth and telling us that we have to do what he wants. How do you feel about it?
We've had these sort of things before. I remember in East Manchester, we put up 10,000 posters of police officers saying, don't commit crime in this area.
Good thinking.
And it was like, oh, is that all it takes to stop people doing something you don't want? Is a poster or a saying? People are more complicated than that.
People, this is a policed area.
Yes.
Don't commit crime. No, I think we've all been policed. The weird thing is, though, it comes across weirdly like a kind of a budget version of They Live. They Live. Have you ever seen the film? Have you seen They Live?
Long time ago.
Oh,
it's the one with the glasses.
Yeah,
that
it
he
is.
puts the glasses on,
Yeah.
and suddenly he can see
Yeah.
all the conceit is a bloke gets a pair of cheapy sunglasses, and that's he needs some sunnies, and he doesn't realize that they're special sunglasses. And what happens is he just casually, sun comes out, gets them out of his jacket pocket, puts them on, and suddenly all the totally normal advertising, whether it's for cars or aftershave or whatever, all around has got things like obey written on it,
Right.
or comply.
He sees the hidden messages.
He sees the hidden messages. It was the film came out when this idea of subliminal advertising was considered a real thing, which is that you could get to people's subconscious through their conscious mind if you designed your adverts in the right way. It's since been debunked, but the science fiction behind the idea that if we did have that kind of technological progress in the future is actually quite creepy, and the film is still quite creepy as long as you're willing to accept that conceit when you watch it.
Yes. And if you want a more lengthy breakdown, go to our website, sign up. I did probably an hour and a half long analysis of They Live because there's loads in it, and actually I think it's really worth your time because of what we're going to be looking at next. Anyway, so let's start with Sadiq Khan.
Sadiq Crime.
Sadiq Crime. I nearly did call him that, yeah. Which actually does fit, doesn't it?
Have you got an image of the ridiculous sign with mate on it?
Yeah.
Because I'd like to take it apart for you. I did used to work as an advertising copywriter.
We will get there. We will get there. But anyway, so Sadiq Khan thinks that there's no place for crime in London, but we can't arrest ourselves out of the problem.
But they're not arresting anyone.
That's the problem, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. How do you feel about that as a mayoral candidate for Manchester? Do you think we can't arrest our way out of crime?
You can arrest your way out of crime. And what annoys me with these is the fact he talks about women and girls.
Yes.
Violence against women and girls. It should be, we need to stop violence. That's what we need to be
in his defense, in this one, he actually does say, well, we need to remove knives from our streets, provide young Londoners with meaningful and engaging activities. I'm committed to being tough on crime and its complex causes, which is ironic considering he was literally the reason there was a crime spike in London because, of course, Stop and Search was racist. Harry makes a good point. You actually can just arrest yourself out of the problem by arresting all of the problem. Have you been following the current president of El Salvador?
Well, his logic is based on you find he's got a name I don't wish to repeat because it sounds like a genre of pornography.
Yeah, I can't.
So I'm not going to say it, but just the president of El Salvador has, in criminology, he has applied one particular element that's a standard part of criminological study if you're a lawyer, which is most crime is committed by a tiny proportion of the largely male population. It's known as a power law in mathematics. The standard way it's described is that 10% of the people commit 90% of the crime. It's actually more extreme than that when it comes to crime. This applies to other things. It applies to earnings in tech startups. It applies to all sorts of areas, but with crime. And so basically what you do is you come down like a ton of bricks on repeat offenders. You have to show some lenity with first-time offence because sometimes people do just need a good scare. And they go back on the straight and narrow. The classic talking to by the police officer. But then when they repeat, then you have to come down on them. And that's what he's done. And
when they get it
country's
tattooed on their chest.
yeah, and the country is virtually crime free.
Yeah.
But it has exploding prisons.
Yeah.
So you just have to accept that. Sometimes the appropriate response is lock them up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the problem is that when you're actually dealing with things that aren't a crime, pre-crimes, if you will, Sadiq Khan has decided that in fact, no, misogyny is not banter. So when men are away from women and having conversations with other men, Nick, I'm looking at you, you look like a bantering kind.
He's from Manchester, of course he is.
You've got to make sure that you're not making any jokes that a woman might disapprove of if she hears you. Let's watch this clip of them explaining it to us, shall we?
A new campaign to help tackle violence against women and girls in London is emphasising the role men need to play in calling out their own friends. It encourages them to challenge misogynistic behaviour and comments, but campaigners say it doesn't go far enough.
Brilliant. We've extirpated misogyny from every other aspect of life. Now we're reduced to little groups of men making jokes. And even then the campaigners like, well, that needs to stop. No end to it.
The first thing I want to say is there's no such thing as misogyny.
Good point.
Doesn't exist. I'm in my third book at the moment on feminism. There's a chapter on violence in there. And
so I think you might have to qualify that somewhat though. Well, misogyny doesn't exist.
The social scientists cannot find the trait misogyny in dozens and dozens of experiments they've done. The closest they've come to, they can't find it in men at all.
Mm-hmm.
They suspect they may have found it in other women, directed at other women.
Do women hate women, Helen?
What you get, and this is one of those behaviours that is both gendered and oriented, is you get two kinds. You get intrasexual competition. Male on male intrasexual competition is very obvious. It involves punch-ups outside the pub. We all know what it looks like. The great Scottish line about the square go. That's male intrasexual competition. Female intrasexual competition is denigrating rivals. And it's something, I mean, because I was always the resident homosexual. I would watch other girls doing it to each other and would periodically intervene along the lines of, have you ever considered that this behaviour is a bit shit and you might want to stop? This is running people down behind their backs. Don't do it. It's bad behaviour. But I was responding the way blokes do because there's quite significant cognitive cross-matching amongst homosexuals, which is why the stereotype of the gay male as a hairdresser exists and why the stereotype of the lesbian as the champion athlete exists. The reason stereotypes exist is because they are true.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an enormous amount of research on this.
No one needs research to know that.
No. And so what Nick is talking about is almost certainly true because it's part of female interest. So among straight women, it's female intrasexual competition.
But moreover, this just seems to be the sort of, what was it Jordan Peterson call it? The devouring mother sort of stereotype, the insatiable demand for control over every single space.
Josh Slocum in America is an American podcaster, runs a podcast called Disaffected. I will have to do his American accent because it works better when it's said like an American. He calls it mommy tone. Your mommy is telling you how to behave.
Yeah.
She has mommy tone. And so just going around being this maternal controller, treating everybody in civil society like they're a toddler, basically.
Yeah.
Behaviour that's fine for toddlers, but not fine for anybody else. Not even fine for an older child or a teenager. Yeah.
Because, I mean, you're going back to his statement, misogyny is not banter. It's like, well, who gets to decide that, actually? Because I've decided it is. And how is your word any less legitimate than mine? So it is, actually, Sadiq. But no, this is the point, though. There is no end to any of this. Can we go to the next one? No? Maybe? I don't know if I should have done that.
The mayor has teamed up with comedian Ramesh Ranganathan and social media influencer Max Selwood to encourage men to stand up to misogyny. They say it can lead to broader violence against women and girls.
Every 3 days, a woman is killed at the hands of a man. These killers, these murderers, didn't just land from Mars. Something happened during the course of their early years, their adolescence and their adulthood that make them behave in this way.
Blank slateism, it's not true.
No, it's nonsense.
You know it's not true because of the power law.
Yeah, we know they didn't land from Mars. We can check their flight manifesto.
We all know some men are capable of the most horrendous crimes.
Yes.
And as a society, we need to crack down on them. We just had this discussion about prisons. That's what prisons are for.
Also, too, if someone's going to murder someone else, they generally don't tell the world about it because they're worried about being caught.
And also, most murders are not the habit of the person. Most murders are kind of a crime of passion. Right?
One of the things I found when I was first in practice at Australia at the criminal bar was the phenomenon of the murderer with no rap sheet.
Yes.
You would get someone, not always, sometimes you had others who were escalating criminals. They were the Wayne Couzens model with a whole series of escalating offences. But very often you would get the murderer with no prior convictions. You would find like someone had just killed outside the pub, because there are more murders of men killing other men than there are of men killing women. That's very important to remember. But you would find 20 years ago there was a utensil or something, which is the fancy police word for a bong. And that was it, or nothing. This is a real thing that exists. The murderer with no rap sheet.
But that's the point, isn't it? Like, Sadiq Khan's acting well. It's just habitual that these men end up abusing and murdering women. It's like, but actually, a lot of it is spontaneous, as in he caught her cheating on him or something like this, and then there's a murder, and it's terrible. Don't get me wrong, but it's not really something that you can actually plan for.
No.
These are just things that people do, and they should be punished for.
And where's the evidence for this? So he keeps saying that jokes women don't find funny leads men to commit horrendous violence. Where's the evidence of this?
It's all of the piece, the claim. This is this very standard claim, and it's part of why people are trying to control speech now. That whole idea that speech is harmful, that speech causes violence. And first of all, they're redefining harm, so you get concept creep. So that's one part of it. But the other part of it is that speech leads to violence. And the thing is, we've had this debate multiple times now. We had it with porn and discovered that it doesn't lead to violence. Doesn't lead to sexual assault. And the other one, and you may recall this in more detail because you were involved in the Gamergate controversy, was the claim that playing violent video games would turn you into a school shooter. Also not true. Has been, and so if it's not true for those huge areas on which there have been multiple studies of very, very high quality, it's not going to be true anywhere else either.
Well, top behavioral psychologists, scientists, disagree with you. This one.
Things that are misogynistic and unacceptable are branded as banter, and I think that we need to be better at recognising when that's not the case. And I think that's not a problem for women to sort out, that's a problem for men to sort out.
Well, you need to lay down the ground straight away.
After working with behavioural scientists, the Mayor of London says a simple, friendly intervention is the best way to challenge misogyny.
Behavioural scientists. They must know what they're talking about.
The nudge unit.
Yes.
Yep.
They're here to manage us. They're here to make sure.
Economics is absolute cobblers.
And even if it's not, it's still evil.
Every single time these papers are put to the test in a real world environment, they fail to replicate. Do you remember when various Tory politicians, this is back in the days of Theresa May, were standing with their legs wide apart?
Yes.
That was called the power posing.
Yeah.
Because they believed that if you did that, it would mean that you presented more effectively rather than looking ridiculous. The study involved 28 people.
Amazing.
And has never replicated. It is nonsense. Nearly all this nudge unit stuff, it's just crap.
Yeah.
Should be ignored.
But even if it's not crap, it's also evil, right? That's the problem with it. The idea that the Mayor of London has sat there going, right, I'm going to use my executive power that I have been invested in to essentially attack segments of the population in order to engineer their behavior to my liking is actually not how a democratic society should work.
I don't think it's that. I think you're giving him far too much credit.
Well, this is what he's doing now.
I think what he's doing is crime's out of control in London. I'm going to be blamed for this. I need to perceive that I'm doing something.
I actually think Nick's right.
Here's something, I will do that.
I don't think these are two distinct things.
Syllogism, isn't it?
Yeah, but hang on. I don't think these are two distinct things. I mean, I think that is, of course, the reason that Sadiq Khan gets out of bed every day. Right? But it's the method by which he feels that he's going to be able to do something is weird and dystopian and horrible. You know, it's presupposed that the people in charge should be crafting the constituency to their liking. But that's all just presupposed. Of course I am allowed to do that. I'm the mayor, aren't I?
I'm allowed to micromanage you.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's the exact problem. So it is what you're saying. That is the motivation.
He just wants the headlines. So it looks like he's doing something.
Sure, but the mechanism that he just naturally defaults to is essentially Brave New World tyranny.
Yeah.
And it's like, right, okay, this is a horrible future. And what's most horrible about this is the person that he conscripts into it. We're told reliably that Ramesh Ranga is a comedian.
Sometimes we are guilty of not calling our mates out when they do awful, I think we've got ourselves into a situation where somebody might be talking to a woman and they say something inappropriate and we don't call it out enough. So, for example, just going, mate, saying that is rank. Or, mate, she doesn't want to talk to you anymore. Or, mate, you need to move away from her. I think that's something we should be doing more of. And I am imploring you to, whenever you see anything like that, you throw them a mate and you let your friend know if they carry on behaving like that, they're not going to be your mate much longer.
Pathetic.
Cringe.
Pathetic.
According to Francis Foster, that guy is actually capable of proper comedy.
I saw his tweet about that as well.
And the thing is, if you want to burn your career to the ground, he's probably just done it.
Well, I mean, there's always going to be...
attaching yourself to an utterly cringy advertising campaign.
Sure, but there's always going to be a segment of progressive, Love Actually watching early 30s who are going to want to be berated for being what they are. And he's just tapping into that coveted demographic.
Wants to be on Live at the Apollo.
I guess he does, yeah.
It's easy to be like that when you've never grown up surrounded by real men.
That's a fair point.
Because if you're surrounded by real men, you understand the banter. That's how men bond with each other. That's how we hold each other to account, by ripping into each other. So we'll rip into women as well. But they would... So it's a minority of men who would insult women to their face like that. You would do it behind their backs.
Yeah.
Because that's how men bond. But he's obviously not hung around men.
And even if he has, there's this...
He may also, too... does not have very much money, and Sadiq Khan's mayor of London is just paying him with taxpayers' money. I'm sorry, I used to be a corporate solicitor. I'm not changed.
Anyway, so Sadiq Khan put out this video. I'm not going to make you watch it because it goes on for a very long time. As you can see, attached there is a link that you can follow. And I went and watched this entire thing because as you see there, it's a full interactive film. And so what it is kind of a skit where you've got these 4 or 5 friends sat around, and one of them, the Englishman, is a raging misogynist, bound to be a rapist, probably going to cause the next Sarah Everard, right? And all of the diverse people around him are like, oh, I don't know if you should be saying that. And what you've got to do is click on the sort of skip ad link that you go on YouTube, where you've got to click on one of those that just says mate on it. And then it will skip you to a relevant part that makes the story follow on, right? And so, after a few minutes, he's like, oh, I hate girls' football or something. And you click mate, and then they go, oh, but the girls' football was really good, actually. And it's like, yeah, right, that's what men are saying. But the thing is, if you don't touch it, after 4 minutes, the guy just looks at the camera and goes, are you just going to let me go on like this? And it's like, maybe. But no, at no point in there is there any violence against women and girls. Obviously, it's insufferable. But then they put out this to go with it. So this is the video, obviously. So we'll skip that. But they've got a load of things at the bottom here, which I found interesting. I'm not going to scroll down to because it'll take too long. So they say that misogyny, the problem with all this is that problematic behavior includes disrespectful and harmful attitudes or actions that can condone and normalize abuse against women. It's like, right, so there's a big jump here, isn't there? From disrespecting someone to abusing women.
Character is not shown by your opinions or by your thoughts. Character is shown by your conduct. This is the most basic stuff.
Yes, indeed. But they do say, whilst we may not think that words have a direct impact on violence against women and girls, then why are we doing any of this? Sexist jokes and banter can contribute towards a culture of abuse against women and girls. It's a big leap, isn't it? You've just said that words do not have a direct impact on violence against women and girls.
Probably one of the behavioural scientists in there has at some point made this and said this argument and put evidence like I just on the table. And they've gone, oh crap.
Yeah, well, we still want to do this. So if we just bury this, halfway
Bury
down
the
the
lead,
page.
as they
Yeah,
call it in media work.
exactly. But if we just have that there, so if anyone actually who knows what they're talking about comes up and says, well, hang on a second, there's no proof of this, and you're making this up, we can say, well, we did say that words don't have a direct impact on violence against women and girls. So what are you doing, Sadiq? Like, none of this makes any sense whatsoever. You've just made this up. This is just essentially a desire to stigmatize men, right?
Yep.
Anyway, so they do explain to us what misogyny is, because I think that's important, right? So misogyny is objectifying women. So TikTok women are the most misogynistic people because they objectify themselves. Instagram is literally an objectifying machine for women that hurts women. Belittling women or girls in conversation, such as using sexist nicknames or using derogatory remarks. Okay, I'll give that. But as you said earlier, words have no effect on violence against women and girls. Seeking to control women's behavior. I think women's behavior needs to be controlled. Am I wrong?
They're collapsing multiple things into each other. They're
Yep.
collapsing coercive control, which is
Yep.
actually defined in legislation,
Yeah, but
with stuff that's just irrelevant.
No. They didn't say coercive control, because I would agree with them. Yeah, I'd be like, oh yeah, coercive control is bad. But
Yeah.
seeking to control women's behavior, I mean, that's what literally every insult is about, the attempt to control someone else's behavior.
We're always trying to control
Yeah.
each other's behavior.
Why are you dressing like a slag? You know, that's an attempt to control someone's behavior, and you're just using your words, and it's totally normal, and everyone does it. So, but any amount of trying to mediate a woman's behavior, that's misogyny. You've seen the videos of the American woman who gets naked in the middle of a Walmart and starts rolling on top of the produce.
Yeah.
You seen those videos?
Oh, good grief.
Yeah, that's controlling women's behavior. You're a misogynist, Helen.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you think she shouldn't be doing that.
She thinks it's some kind of performance art or something. It's
I have
just
no
completely
idea.
bonkers.
I have no idea.
But they're all over the internet.
But carrying on, they say, well, using intimidating or humiliating behavior to destroy a woman's self-confidence and undermine her. Okay, fair enough. I can concede to that. Discriminating against
Concept creep again.
yeah, slight concept creep, right? But we go down all the way going, oh well, treating women differently from men in social and professional settings. Like, are you serious? In what social setting can I treat a woman like a man? She's just insulted me right outside. There is just no way that it can be called misogyny to recognize that men and women are different. Mental.
Well, this is blank slatism again.
Yes,
it's tied to the
Yes.
same problem with power law and criminality, which is where what you want is the use of prisons to incapacitate that small group of repeat criminals.
The final one,
incapacitation effect.
I really like here. Controlling confident and self-centered behavior as well as competitive. So if you're now confident and competitive, you're a misogynist.
Well, that's done the whole UK team GB, hasn't it? Yeah, everybody. Never mind winning a medal, you're all stuffed.
Can I just jump in with the word misogyny?
Yeah, absolutely.
None of that means misogyny.
No,
Misogyny has a definition. It means the hatred of women.
Yes.
So
Like misanthropy. Which
You're
is the other
confident
one.
though, Nick. You hate women.
yeah, but
I mean, there are
the left
people out
the
there.
left keep changing the meanings of words.
Misanthrope is the old word for it. Misanthropy is a real thing that exists. And you know who shows it? People like Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion, the ones who say that, who are making arguments against, for example, fertilizer, which fixes nitrogen from the air, which is basically the only reason we can feed this many people on the planet. If they got to enact their policies, you wouldn't just have millions of deaths, you would have billions of deaths. That's misanthropy. Hatred of the human race. That's a thing that exists.
So Sadiq Khan wrote an article for LBC about this because, of course, he did. But he says, I describe myself as a proud feminist, and that's not something I claim lightly. Why not? Everyone else does.
Male feminists.
I know, it's the worst, isn't
Be
it?
wary of any man who says he's a feminist.
There's a cartoon about that. Are you going to show the cartoon?
No.
It's a very famous cartoon. Sort of they're all like little bald figures. I don't know who does the cartoon, and basically the male feminist is like all the other animals that conceal themselves as prey but are actually predators. Yeah.
He says, as a man, I'm aware that being a meaningful ally to women requires taking responsibility and not simply adopting a passive mindset. Why would I want to be an ally to women, Sadiq? Haven't women destroyed enough yet? We'll get to more on that, in fact, later on the podcast. But he says, at school, there are instances in which I heard women and girls described in derogatory or demeaning ways, too often in the name of banter. Growing up, I called most of it out at the time, but I'll admit, not every single time. guilty conscience.
Oh.
Didn't do it every single time. There we go. Sadiq Khan loses his feminist card. So basically, this is just him whining constantly, as you might imagine. And then he's like, right, so what we need to do is impose this on everyone.
Oh, there's the advertising campaign.
I mean, that's just the most ugly thing in the world. Didn't you want to explain why this is
right? Okay. This use language structure, and I'll have to do the accent. Mate. You hear the Australian accent.
Yeah.
This is the way Australian men, not in the context that Sadiq Khan is talking about, but this is Australian men will use this construction, the double mate with the different vowel length, the diphthong at the beginning and the short one at the end. This is the way Australians will speak to each other as blokes. You don't hear it amongst women. And I've seen it in the wild in Australia relatively last time I was in the country and then before when I was working there. It's not the way Londoners speak.
No, but
Londoners don't use this construction.
But don't they also say it when it's like, mate, you forgot the beers?
Yes. Mate in Australian English is a very, very flexible term. It can even be derogatory. If someone says to you...
Oh, really?
Yeah, if someone says to you, for example, you've done something really stupid or really annoying, particularly in a social context, like come back with all the beers at the cricket and then manage to spill them all over the seat or something.
Yeah.
Mate, that's not happy. That's not a happy sound.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like the way Australians use bastard. It's a very, very flexible term. It can be very derogatory or it can be, hey, you old bastard. It can be completely friendly. I joked at the time, I put a tweet out about it because I thought, oh my goodness, an Australian ad agency has taken Sadiq Khan for an enormous ride here. And then another advertising background person said it was actually done by a UK agency. Mm-hmm. And I had, meanwhile, all these people who were with backgrounds in linguistics, because this is what professional linguists, people like Steven Pinker and Noam Chomsky are interested in, saying underneath, this is an Australian construction. Why are they using it in London? Is this, has Earl's Court taken over the whole of London kind of thing? Or Willesden, where all the Australians live? Because it's not the way Londoners speak. They do sometimes use mate, but not in the same way.
No, and it's just really annoying because it seems to be, I don't even know how to describe it. Like there's a kind of man who became an adult in the early 2000s, so it's like 2010s, who seems to think that it's still the 90s and that things are just as good as they were then, and that Tony Blair is the best politician ever, and we actually want to live in a version of Love Actually that just has diversity, right? There's a kind of person like that, and that's the kind of person that Ramesh is. It's the kind of person Sadiq Khan is. This kind of affluent, middle class, very insufferably liberal, early 2000s person who hasn't got the memo that actually the country's falling apart. And
nothing is working.
Yeah, and everything.
Britain's state capacity is going down the pan.
And it's not that the people who are like, can we have fewer immigrants are racist? It's because they would like to have the NHS. These people, this is their brainchild. And it's very obviously their brainchild because it's that kind of really annoying, important application. It's like, shut up, you whiner. I'm not, as soon as you approach me like that, I'm not listening to you. But also, it's just evil and dystopian. And this is where the They Live billboard comes into it. I mean, like, it looks just the same.
And the thing is, oh dear God, but also, I didn't realise that. It's years since I've seen a photo out of the They Live thing.
Not only does it look just like it, right? But it also shows that the evil overlords in They Live are actually less evil than our evil overlords, because at least their evil overlords will have a pretty picture on top of it. So you don't even realise.
You need the special sunglasses.
Yes. Our ones are just, okay, no, we don't need the fig leaf. But anyway, moving on from this. So Lad Bible came out and were like, men, you need to be better. Is that what Lad Bible was about when it was founded?
No,
not really.
It used to be about funny videos of university students.
It used to be a lads magazine, didn't it? It used to actually have banter on it, but that's gone because men need to be better allies. There are a lot of people who are saying mate to the Pakistani community in Britain. Good point. Maybe Sadiq's got a point here. Maybe he should go to his friends and say mate a few times. What do you think?
Should go to the mosque.
Yeah, say mate.
Yeah.
When you're down the mosque, Sadiq. Dark, right. There are also a lot of people saying mate to the transgender activists.
who are getting away with the most extraordinary. Some of what that one was saying at the demo, I can't remember which one it was. There are so many now; they all bleed into each other. Was sailing very, very close to incitement.
Oh, it was incitement.
Incitement requires proximity in time and in place. There is a reason why the criminal, it's a crime, and it's one of the few places where language is criminalized. Remember, libel and slander is not criminal, it's a civil wrong. At common law, the traditional rule is very much incitement is the only time you have criminalized speech. And the classic one story that you told when you study it as an undergraduate law student and when you see it in practice is the rabble-rousing politician, delivering an excited speech outside the corn dealer's house. And of course, the reason for this is because this was developed, the concept in its modern form was developed during the period of conflict over the corn laws, when there really were very, very high prices for a lot of agricultural produce in Britain because they were artificially pumped up by trade protectionism. And so, yes, that was a great way to burn the corn dealer's house down with him and his family inside it. So that was your classic incitement. You need proximity in time and proximity in place. Now, obviously, this has not come to trial. This individual
but they did get arrested.
Charged and is now been remanded because he breached, I think,
recalled to prison.
He got recalled because he breached whatever order he was under. I want to say community payback order, but you don't have those in England and Wales. They're Scotland. So breached an order, recalled to prison, and the thing is, one of the charges I'm reasonably confident when it does come to trial will be incitement, because it was the classic nexus of proximity, time, place.
I mean, she was yelling punch a turf.
Yeah.
To which Sadiq Khan should have been saying mate, really. But anyway, just as a final thing, Sadiq Khan has just a few things to say to women, actually. Let's watch.
Feminist. I'm a proud feminist.
I saw that the mayor didn't have.
Is that a question? Sorry, is that a question?
Could you stop interrupting the member and
No,
allow her to ask
not really.
Thank you.
Okay.
The thing I would reflect on, Mr. Mayor, stop interrupting me. You interrupt all the women in this chamber when we speak.
For those young people watching, not all politicians are rude, like some of them are seasonable. Some are very polite and courteous.
And some answer questions, everybody in the audience.
Chair, I want to say this in a way that doesn't appear patronising, but the naivety of the chair of TfL saying publicly a figure.
For an estimate today, Mr. Mayor, not a figure.
Well, I'm not giving you an estimate. I think this demonstrates why, with respect, Londoners were right to reject you twice when you stood to be mayor.
I have no further questions.
You spent more time thinking about how you could answer these questions and less ways you could try and insult me over a petty word choice, then you'd probably be in a better position for London.
Was that pot kettle black?
I don't know if I've offended you in any way, but
Was
thank you.
Pot kettle black, is it?
Assembly Member Best, have you finished?
She's finished, I can assure you that, Chair.
What a little bitch. But I would suggest that was possibly intimidating or humiliating behavior designed to destroy a woman's self-confidence and undermine her.
He's just being rude to the two women who were speaking.
He
it wasn't
is.
the same one. There was a Tory, I think, and a Lib Dem, and he was just being rude to both of them to shut them up.
To which we have to say, mate. It's not a good look, is it? Anyway, we'll leave that there.